Okay, well, welcome to Behind the Drapes, where we look into what goes on in the mind of event professionals and do a deep dive into the lives of the people that make things happen. Coming to you from the Expo studio here at Expo IAEE in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Expo Rich, and I'm here with our special guest, Mike Carlucci, Vice President of Clarion Events. So welcome, Mike. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So yeah, it's a little chilly this location, but you know we're toughing it out.
Luckily, there's bourbon to help you.
Exactly. Yeah, we're in bourbon country. So first, I'd like to hear a little bit about your position, your roles and responsibilities at Clarion.
Yep. So I'm the Executive Vice President of Revenue and Customer Delivery. What that means is essentially all the revenue that comes into North America, as well as all of operations and all of support.
Okay. So pretty much you have your hands in every single aspect of it, between sales and ops and all the type of revenue streams. So.
And it's interesting because, the sales, I came up through sales. Sales is where I've always been in sales. And I think it, foundationally for me with what I do now, and I do span across a good chunk of the business, I think the foundation I had with sales, with relationships and developing relationships, it just was an easy slide into the operations, running the ops position or the division, simply because I do value the relationships I have in this industry. I've been doing this for over 20 years.
Yeah.
I think that gave me a good head start.
Sure.
And lessened the learning curve, if you will.
And being in 20 years, obviously, you care about it. You love this industry. So when someone loves and cares about it, you're not just selling a product. You're ingrained in it. So
exactly. I mean, look, I love what we do. I know we see each other all over the place. It's a nice little circuit. I love the connection. I love people. I love putting people together. And I just love where the industry is going, more specifically the last couple of years. And what we're shaping up for. I think a lot of event organizers or associations, everyone that basically runs a show, what they're looking to do, change the game up a little bit and stay relevant to the both audiences, the exhibitors and the attendees in the industries that we serve.
Yeah, and you nailed it. I mean, things are changing rapidly and fast. And thinking back to when I first came in the industry, same thing, 20 plus years ago. How did you end up in the industry? Like,
it was an accident. Really, it was an accident. I went to a business school, business college, and I was in Boston. I was a high tech recruiter. When the .com bust hit, I relocated to Connecticut, and a friend of mine was working at Reed Exhibitions, a large global event organizer. Got an interview there when I moved down to Connecticut. Got the position in sales, and I didn't know what I was getting into. Loved the idea of the people part, and it's been a roller coaster ever since.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and especially like we said, starting in early 2000s or 90s into now it's leaps and bounds different. So besides like how you entered into the industry, clearly you've been successful. You've worked your way up the ladder in two different organizations. So where do you attribute that hustle and that drive to?
Well, I'm very competitive. I think, it's the desire to win. It's the desire to I said it earlier, to be relevant. I think for me, it's always try to challenge myself, my teams, push a little bit harder. At the end of the day, I mean, look, we can do our jobs, right? Everyone can do their jobs pretty well. I really want to do it even better. I think to keep everyone motivated. And that's how I was motivated, had a lot of good mentors coming up through the industry. But it was just the drive to continue to evolve and change. You're right. I remember when I started, we would send out faxes. I mean, that's how long ago it was.
These beepers.
Well, not that quite old, but it's just the industry. Traditionally our industry is slow to evolve, but I think I've seen some of that change over the last couple of years. And I hate to use the C word, the COVID word, but I think it forced us to think differently. Right. And I think the dynamic changed a bit, and I think we have to keep up with that. So it's still staying in front of that and keeping that drive and that competitive nature to want to continue to succeed and exceed expectations.
Yeah. And, I mean, we try not to harp on it, but the pandemic definitely made us look at things completely different when we're kind of screeching halt put on our industry and says, what are we going to do now? So, making it better in the after. I think it's on the forefront of everybody. So, and being part of the events industry, and I mean, you obviously you went to school for a complete, well, not a completely,
business,
business in general. So what are some of the key takeaways that just being involved with the event space and running an organization? How do you put those two together? Like, how do you equate those two?
Well, I think for what I do now, and I think for a lot of my colleagues or counterparts at different organizations, we have a focus. Our focus is to continue to improve and do better. Also to take the individuals that are following us and the teams that we lead and keep them motivated and keep them a part of the process and to collaborate. I think the other thing too, which a lot of us don't talk about, is I even collaborate with my competitors. And I, again, the relationship side coming up through the industry, through the sales organization, it just allows us to, run our business, but also take best practices from each other. It's okay to talk to a competitor. It's okay to find out what we can do as far as who's identified a best practice. Why can't we implement that? Share those ideas and thoughts. At the end of the day, whether it's a competitor or not, we want events to succeed.
Absolutely.
Right? They succeed, we succeed, you succeed. I think that's the premise, and that's the sort of foundation for running events and also running big teams.
Yeah, 100%. And you talk about collaboration with other organizers, but same thing on the contractor side.
Yeah.
We do a ton of collaboration too. We want to make sure that, we don't want to leave our customer hanging by attempting to work in a market that we're not familiar with. So we collaborate with somebody who's strong in that market to make sure that the event is successful, and that's the great thing about the collaboration over greed is always, the outcome is always going to be better.
Sure. I couldn't agree more.
Sure.
Couldn't agree more.
For sure. And so what are some of the things looking forward, some of the things that you're excited to get out of bed in the morning because what?
I think, what we've seen in the industry over the last a year, I'd say, or so, is that, it's becoming harder in some cases to engage. And not only that, to be relevant, right? To make sure that we have things that are happening at our events that people want to be at and be a part of. I think for me, it's about finding that balance and restructuring a bit, breaking a few eggs, thinking about it a different way, and trying to really align with the needs of our customers, whether they're attendees, delegates, or exhibitors, and build something, continue to change and evolve that they want to be at and they want to be a part of, something that they can't miss. I don't want to get too far into analytics and strategy, but everyone's got a choice. I think the average attendee is going to one less show a year, right? So for us, it's making sure that our events are operating at the top of the echelon of what they could be doing.
Yeah.
I think the challenging part, or the most exciting thing, is getting up each day and figuring out what that means. How do we make a difference? How do we change it? How we, let's not be afraid to take some risks and essentially sometimes even fail.
Yeah.
But if we're not pushing ourselves to continue to align, I think the events become a little less relevant, in my opinion. And I think that's when you run into a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And earlier this year, I sat in a session with you and Fernando when you guys were talking about how to make it the best ROI for attendees and for exhibitors and sponsors, and making sure that everyone's getting the most out of it, and that you're not just a huge networking event. We want to make sure that the customers on all levels are getting the best out of it.
And I think that, and the good part about that is if you know what they're looking for, right? So ask the questions, ask the hard questions. I mean, for me, I'd rather ask a difficult question so I know what I'm up against, so we know what we're really looking at. And that ROI is very different in a lot of different, to many different organizations. And I think it's just identifying, what you need the playbook, right? And don't be afraid to push and ask the questions that may be hard to ask.
Yeah.
Because you get the answers that that are valuable, and then you use that info to implement that change. If you don't ask, you're not pushing. We think we know, but if we're not really engaged with our audience, we really don't.
Yeah, definitely. Well, going back, I asked you earlier about, how your motivation was built. So was there one person, you talked about some mentors. Is there anybody like that jumps out as like somebody that really, really like made you fall in love with this industry, that really taught you and guided you on a path that just said, and that's where it like really sparked something?
I had a lot of great mentors in the industry. I think
or even outside of the industry.
Outside of the industry, for me, I saw my grandfather rise to the top of his profession, and to me, that was always motivating. Coming up, he was a Navy guy in the war, and then got into the fire department and became a deputy chief. And for me, you know, growing up and seeing that and seeing, you know, how hard he was and difficult, but how hard he worked, right? And it all paid off at the end. That was always motivating to me, something that I always aspired to. So that is one person I think that I resonate the most with. I think internally, I've had a lot of success being around very smart people and people in this industry that are known and that took the time to invest in me. I think that's important, by the way. I think we should be investing in our people as well. For sure. There have been a couple, you know, to name a few. I mean, I'd have to name quite a bit. I mean,
well, your grandfather, actually, you're talking about leadership. I mean, going from the Navy, structured leadership, then into the fire department and going all the way to the top. I mean, for sure, he had leadership in his core. So,
tough guy, but a fair guy.
Yeah,
right. But he never stopped. He always pushed the envelopes. Always cared about his people. He was tough. Yeah, you know, but he was respected. And he did very well.
Yeah, and to this day, you're still talking about him. I'm sure there's many others out there that he touched. So, on that note, how do people find you? LinkedIn?
Yep, I've LinkedIn, Facebook as well. Clarion website at almost every show that we're at. I travel quite a bit to a lot of the events.
So what's Clarion website?
ClarionEvents.com.
ClarionEvents.com in case you find out more about what's going on with Mike and the rest of the Clarion team. Well, Mike, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.